To take us into today and what we're going to focus on, I wanted to start with a Gestalt theory framework, introduce a framework, because in coaching, we often introduce frameworks. And the reason why I want to frame where we're going is because we have, different points of entry from all of you as coaches. You have also your own experiences, perhaps in negotiating your worth, in charging and pricing your products, in discerning your intrinsic and external value. But there's different levels. And so we want to be able to turn over the blocks, turn over the pieces where it's relevant for you. Many of you have heard of, the framework around puzzles, problems, dilemmas, and mysteries. And again, it's a simple frame that allows us to, use compartmentalization and a landscape to unfold what's in front of us. So, puzzles have answers, right? And so you might have a direct question and we can target you to a direct answer, right? In terms of problems, have multiple puzzles. And then that way we're going to unpack and see, where are the areas that you need to work on that's customized to you. Dilemmas are managed. I like to think of dilemmas like major issues such as the homeless, that they are complex, they are interconnected. There are parts of them that we don't see. And so therefore we move forward with strategies, but they exist for a long time. And of course, mysteries are the profound. And so, again, just entering with a frame here for today as we approach negotiating your worth for coaches. Looking at the foundations of coaching, what I want to share is that I believe what's come up in the pre-survey is around, the survey's popping up, is around the idea that we are in a problem with multiple puzzles. And that, in fact, there is underdevelopment in the landscape of coaching, particularly competency development in the foundations of business coaching. And so, if you have a piece of paper, I want you to really think about, what are the competencies on the business side of coaching that you need to equip yourself with so that you can have the foundation and the backbone to support your coaching business, to support your clients, and to support the vision for what you want to create in the future. So again, coming at it from a competency perspective so that we can address skills development at the smallest level and at the largest level. I want to talk about the three challenges, and you're going to see that embedded throughout the presentation. Why are we as coaches having such a hard time? And, simply put, why do we not know our worth? Right? We're in the learning and the development field. We come from positive psychology. We come from adult learning. We come from all different landscapes. My research was based in transformative learning theory and leadership coaching. We come from all schools of life, and yet we question our worth. And I believe there's some reasons for that. And I'd like to open some dialogue around why we might be questioning our worth and where some of that confusion is setting off our foundation. And one of the places I think we need to start with and acknowledge is a neutral discussion on the benefits and limitations of the coaching industry. And I think it's important because I don't know about you, but I was so proud to become a coach. And, coaching is one of three professions for me. And there's a self-actualization process when you step into coaching, no matter what type of coaching you move into. However, the business of coaching and the coaching industry does have limitations. It has been historically a highly unregulated field, right? And within that, a relatively young field, right? And while we can trace discourses of coaching, back to the dyadic method and back to Plato and Socrates, while we can do that, and we can continue to do research around making meaning and link it to adult learning theory, and we can link it in to some of the greats. We're still moving forward, and I wonder, where is the coaching industry going to be, how it's going to be defined in the next 20 to 30 years. And I'm already starting to see it change over the last 10, 15 years. I have seen as some of the limitations that we still are competitive versus a collaborative culture. And I hear this all the time when I meet a coach and they have no idea what to charge because it's not transparent, right? We see it with what else do we see it with? If you were to look at accountants, an accountant will go to another accountant to be like, hey, what do you charge? And they have no problem sharing this transparency, around the rates. In fact, many of them go out, I have clients in businesses and management consulting and other fields, and there's a lot more sharing. I find myself being both in the leadership field and the career management field that I have a lot of transparency in career management. But in the coaching, I still find that it can be a bit siloed, and that when people are introduced, that there's an energy that feels that it's not as safe to say, okay, here's where I'm at. What do you charge? And what does then that mean to another coach? Are they comparing now? Are they moving to comparison? Lack of business foundations. Again, I have a master's in coaching. I've published my research in the International Journal of that. Like I have all of those, I have all of these things, right? But if I really look at my background in the business of coaching, and while I've taken many courses and signed up for many things that, that aspect of our industry, I feel could still develop and be defined collectively, and in practice, not just the learning, the application of practice being shared. We have a wide range of qualifications, specialties, and experience. Again, all of this is natural to a growing field, right? And we are beginning to have more and more certifications, bodies and credentialing bodies. I know when I finished my research, I was asked to evaluate the ICF, and as a credentialing body, I know that when I remember I moved out west because I'm in Canada, and I was on Victoria, which is on Vancouver Island, where they have a number of popular coaching schools, executive coaching schools. And I remember I met someone, and of course I introduced myself at a business meeting as an executive coach. And the first piece of feedback I got from someone was, wow, we have a lot of those. I know a coach, but I didn't say she was a good one. I mean, that was the first, that was the rap that I had to handle. And I remember handling that and also feeling like, okay, here we go. And what did I say? In that moment, obviously this was an incredibly intellectual human being who was, of course, interested in coaching and power dynamics and power and the coaching relationship, which you can tell something happened. But I shared, wow, there are a lot of great dentists. There are a lot of bad dentists. There are a lot of great chiropractors and not so great chiropractors. And, I'm sorry that you had a bad experience. Would you like to talk about what I do? Right. And sharing that. But again, holding a space of neutrality for these kinds of conversations, if somebody's interested or not, right, I think is something that as coaches, we are up against. We are up against all the time. When we talk about the wide range of qualifications, I could even share that I've had clients that I've coached who then have become coaches without coaching certifications, and dare I say, borrowed certain intellectual property, and now they do a fantastic job of marketing themselves as coaches. And so again, when we represent the integrity and the due diligence and the professionalism behind the coaching industry, these are things as a young field that we're stepping into and that you may have experienced yourself. And so I know that I've experienced a lot of it over the years. And again, I stay focused forward on what I'm doing. And I've had several clients and colleagues over the years ask me, well, how do you deal with all of that? And I often been like, deal with what? And the truth is, I'm focusing on coaching and I'm focused on doing the business of coaching. So I often stay out of it, and I stay out of it. And I think that's what's kept me moving forward. And so again, I feel that some of these larger limitations, and every industry has benefits and limitations, and we're going to talk about the benefits because that's all the good stuff. But I think that if there are some systemic challenges of our industry that might be holding you back, that might be getting at some of that imposter syndrome, making you feel that self-doubt, we need to remove the systemic barriers and then focus on your customized development so that so that you are a manual solution to a systemic barrier. Okay. And so again, as we transform the industry ourselves and we connect with best practices, I believe that this is something we need to be mindful of, because at the end of the day, some of these things is what makes coaching hard as well. Okay. So the benefits of coaching, I believe there's no greater time than to be a coach than right now. I believe, that when I was born, coaching did not exist. And, I have an 85-year-old father, and I've tried many years to explain what coaching is, right? The adult growth and development of a human being. And, he's not of that generation to understand and appreciate, if I would say, coaching and what it is and what it can do for others. But, I felt like I was always born a century ahead, ready, always, 10 years too early to move forward. But I do believe with the complex nature of organizations, I've worked on 3 transformations in a government setting, that we do have incredible complex organizations and systemic issues, and I am 100% behind the efficacy of coaching and what it can do, whether we're coming from team coaching to relationship coaching. The spectrum is there. I want to, help you make the business case that coaching is there. I want you to believe in that. And, again, we want to raise your efficacy, your belief in yourself to know that there are benefits, but you are going to need to customize the benefits and the tangible outcomes and results for you. That's part of the work. Okay. Effective leadership. This is kind of part of my pitch. I believe we need the right leaders in the right roles. And as part of leadership and executive coaching, that is one of my missions, to help those leaders self-actualize and get there and do great work, do the best work of their lives when they get there, right? And that's what makes me so passionate about this field, and taking, different fields and bringing them together and coming up with programs. Specifically with me, I focus a huge area of my work in terms of equity and advancing women in leadership roles. So, where are you playing your part, in the collective imperative? The potential for a high level of return on investment. And sometimes this might come up for you. What is the return on my investment, right? So, return on investment, simple examples. I just had a client a couple of weeks ago write a testimonial that we've done 2 promotions with her, performance reviews, 1 promotion, 2 performance reviews in the last year with 120% salary increase. That's an ROI, right? That's an ROI. That's also an ROI that sometimes as a business owner makes me think, should I take a commission? But I can't. I have the integrity of coaching. Okay. And so I say that because you are going to have ROIs and you are going to define them. And we define them, through the coaching conversation. And the truth is the client defines them. The client defines them. And so part of our job as coaches is to help get that value and, to learn over time how that value is communicated, the strategic language that we use, the business acumen to communicate the return on investment. And again, you have to believe it's there because it is. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing this work. This category is general because there's so much personal and professional development and growth, and the beauty of coaching is we get to do that in either dyadic one-on-one relationships, in group, in teams. There's so many different ways with families, that we can, and organizations that we can come to the table and create that growth. Again, just as a broad category. And increased engagement and fulfillment, right? I know there's many different coaching methodologies. I use about 7 of them that come to the table and, and debate debate what's true coaching, debate fulfillment. And, again, is it coaching for transformation, right? Is it situational coaching? And again, no matter what your entry point is to coaching and what methodologies you use, here's saying that you have methodologies and that you rely on them, whatever framework, structures, blueprints. Again, where I'm a stickler for structure and foundation is just, again, those outcomes sometimes can be very simple, and yet they can have transformational impact and perspective. So I want to ask you, I just want to put it out to the chat. What's been your experience? That's my question. Norma, I don't know if you can read them out or we can see them in the chat. What's been your experience? Have you experienced any of these, limitations and benefits? Do you have something to add to this conversation? Again, we want to value who's in the room and kind of bring that there.
If you go, Christina, to the Q&A, and you can scroll, and you'll see no one has responded yet, but they'll start coming.
They'll start. Okay. If anyone would like to share anything, we'll just.
Why don't you ask the question again?
Sorry?
Why don't you ask the question again?
Right. Thank you. So again, just the question being that, have you experienced, any of these limitations or benefits? What has been your experience was my question.
So there's your first response from Brian. How to show the ROI.
Okay. Well, we're going to keep moving forward. I can't see any responses for now, so I want to keep moving forward with the presentation. But again, just want you to think about these benefits and limitations. And so where to from here, right? Another point that is critical that I want to bring to you is that in the last few years, more research globally has been done on the competency gaps for entrepreneurs. And I want to share this in its relevance because while we focused on the survey and some of the inputs from the survey, and I'm sure there could be more inputs, competency gaps for entrepreneurs is also showing up. And you may have some of these, right? So your coaching practice or your coaching business, may find that you have these struggles. And again, I have a whole framework on the robust breakdown of competencies for entrepreneurs, but just making them at a high level, the idea that we have benchmarks for competence for entrepreneurs. In large organization, we have had leadership competencies and frameworks and levels. We've had them for years. But to bring them down to the entrepreneurial level, meaning from growing a business to scaling a business, here are all the core competencies that you need. And again, when we start to look at that, we give a baseline. We give a baseline for development that you can work from, right? Because especially if you're making the leap, I made the leap from public service. I left the six figures. I left the pension. I left the Titanic. Okay. And so I say that because, it was a long drop. Okay. And I realized, and I really had to assess the landscape when I got out. And I'm happy to share more about that as we continue and we have time. So again, this competence framework, and now we're highlighting specific competence development for coaches. Okay. Foundation and infrastructure. Right. I'm a huge advocate of technology. I never thought in my life that I would be as technologically equipped as I am now. Okay. So I invested early on in 2013, 2014 in online coaching platforms. I've had, I think, 5 or 6 websites. We have another website coming out. Yeah, just even that idea when like, Christina, I'm going to have a website. Oh, you're going to have way more than one website. So just start with something easy. Okay. But this idea of actually taking perhaps the skill sets that we have from complex organizational structures and embedding them in the foundation and infrastructure of small business. So we're moving from strategies to systems. And you need to do this because if you come as a new coach or already if you're an experienced coach, you would already know this. Do you have things that are automated? Are your coaching contracts, are they in a system, right? And are they also evolving over time? Again, we're really lucky that I think since 2018, 2019, a number of coaching technology projects of accounting software is been more accessible, and so that we can implement systems into the business of coaching, which is what you need, because you have to be able to trust the business so that you can focus on the clients. Okay. Variable pay and budgeting. Finance is a huge area for coaches and entrepreneurs, and this idea of variable income. And it, in my early years, I want to share in my early years, I interviewed 10 coaches when I not only did I do coaching research in my research, but when I left public service, I interviewed and I asked how everybody do it and did it. And the truth is they were not transparent. They did not disclose the nitty gritty. They did not disclose. I remember when I left and I had a nice cushion. I had a lot of money to because I negotiated out and I took a great severance. And when I got there within 2 weeks, my hourly coaching model I was like, oh my God, this isn't going to work. I'm going to be broke. Right. And so I say this because if you're making the leap, right, you really want to understand the skills development piece of how long it takes to learn to sell your services. Okay. And then let alone what those services are going to be. Clients, right? How do you get clients? Larger clients, letting go of existing clients, right? Where we can talk a little bit more about these pieces and the process of packaging and pricing for clients. And work-life integration, right? Managing it all, being able to create an environment, a home office, a working office, to be part of, other coaching platforms and systems and groups, so that you made this decision, for that work-life harmony, right? And to be in greater alignment with who you are. And do you have this refined skill sets to actually create that for yourself? Okay. So again, just maybe there's some competency gap here for you on the side of the business of coaching. The last piece that I want to share here is on this idea of, when reasons as to why we're questioning and we don't know our worth. I want to lead you to, a decision, not an action, but a decision first. And that collective imperative that it is our responsibility as coaches, as leaders, as CEOs. It's our responsibility to know our worth and market value. It's our responsibility to define that, right? Nobody tells us who we are. I tell you who I am, right? And so again, that's the intrinsic definition and the external market value. There are multiple approaches to compensation and options for client fees and engagements. We'll go over some of them next. And again, just really opening this up for you if you perhaps have a bit of a linear mindset at the moment, that when you talk about value, open up your definition. Okay. It can be about the value to your clients, to your boss, to your organization. It can be how clients and superiors trust you, right? I mean, trust is trust and reliability are huge tangible outcomes, but we don't talk about the value of those in terms of return on investment. Okay. And so again, as coaches, we often are thinking partners and strategic partners, and we help our clients really open the landscape so that they can grow and transform and experience those perspective changes. And from there, step into, robust, complex decisions that they have to make, or even some of the personal decisions are the hardest for individuals and teams, to actually want to let down their guards, right? And to step outside their comfort zone and re-engage, re-onboard, right? And we're often engaging that silent majority, okay? And so just this idea that there may be all of this, and yes, we are still going to succeed. We are going to succeed. Success is a decision. And this is something I say, and this is something that I strive to live by in my coaching practice. It's a decision. Okay.